Okay. All right, I believe we're live. I'm just going to make sure that I can see any comments. Okay. Right, that looks like it's working. Well, I can't see if I'm streaming it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I've been streaming for about 30 seconds. And welcome if you are joining me live. And please do say hi. And if you are watching on replay as well, please do say hi. And as always, I'm going to ask that if this topic is of interest, if it helps you in any way, and you feel that someone else might actually benefit from it, then please do share. Please do share this video. So I've come on live, as always, spontaneously. This is something that has been brewing in me for the last couple of days. Being an emotional authority, I wait for my emotional wave to calm down. And if you don't know what that means, have a look at some human design content, and then you'll actually get what that means. But it really, I mean, even if you don't know about human design, it's about not allowing your raw emotions to take over and get you into situations or put you into spaces that you then regret. So I've learned this over time, and I actually learned it before I found out I was an emotional authority in human design, but it really consolidated that. So anyway, that's what that is all about. What am I going to talk to you about today? And I'm going to keep it short, is around integrity and your word. And it's something that's come up really, really strong for me, as I said, in the last couple of days, but it's been brewing for a while because I've been working a lot with marketing people, with getting out of the closet. You know, I work with many, many clients under the radar, and I haven't yet, you know, hit it big as such in terms of being very, very visible. And I feel that a lot of it has to do with the tactics that I see, not just in the marketing world, but actually in the coaching and healing world as well. As many of you know, I am mainly online. I'm a healer, but I've also worked in many corporate environments and spaces where there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, but not so much of actual embedded deep work, not so much focusing on the client and what results they get once you've actually brought them in. And that's something that I really, really, really struggle with. I've found that in a few programs that I've been in the past. I'm finding that in potentially a program I'm in at the moment, but I've already started to call that out. Because the thing that I think I see more than anything is where coaches, strategists, healers even will promise results, will promise the earth. And of course, it is a two-way street. It is a responsibility from both. But they're promising much, much more than they could possibly actually deliver. And it's something that within the container then is a disappointment for the person in the container. And also it doesn't bode well actually for your own energy as the coach or the healer, because what you're doing is you're saying that my word means nothing. What I say actually means nothing. And this is something that I've heard a few coaches speak on, and yet still use these tactics. I find it quite icky. But this is, again, I'm literally just sharing my opinion. And I'd like to share a story with you around this, because this is something that I've struggled with for quite a while. When I worked in corporate, one of my consulting positions was as a training and development manager. I used to handle large rollouts across especially technical applications. So that's tech, rolling out a new program of how people use a system, rolling out new ways of working, rolling out new management systems, these sort of things. And I was often consulted on and left to strategize the approach, often with the board of directors at the very high level before that came through. I had several instances where a lot of milestones were agreed, a lot of promises were made to the employees, and then I was left with knowing what was required to actually have that come into fruition, and yet not enough resources, not enough time. Those of you who have been in the corporate environment, you'll know this story. The scope changes, things change, and it becomes lip service. What does lip service mean? I'm going to give you an overview of what I'm going to do for you, but I'm actually not going to provide you with the support, with the training in this case, with the cultural change support. So that may mean in corporate environment, that's doing confidence work, change culture, belief work in a corporate setting. And actually leaving the employees in the lurch, but yet still requiring the results that come from that change to be implemented. And then you find that employees go into reviews, into performance reviews, and they're told, oh, you're not using the system properly. You're not doing the process properly. You're not being a cohesive team in the right way. But they've not been given any support for that. They've not actually been delivered what was promised to them. And I used to find myself after a couple of times of, being very naive and thinking, okay, no, the directors are actually going to do this. They've agreed to it. And because it was my department, obviously my name is on the tin, as it were. I ended up very disappointed. And also because it was me in the front end, the employees were coming to me and saying, well, I've not had that support. I've not had that training. I don't understand the training, wasn't sufficient enough. All of these kinds of things. Now, in a corporate environment, you can measure to an extent, but if the upper level management and director level management doesn't actually buy in to what they're saying, it doesn't happen. But in the coaching world and the healing world, there's even less measurement. The coach or the healer can essentially say whatever they want, reel you in, put a contract in place that says, actually, it's not my responsibility anyway. It's your responsibility. Deliver a shoddy service and you haven't got a leg to stand on. Now, to me, that screams of out of integrity delivery, out of integrity service. I don't know if any of you have experienced this. I find it difficult to talk about this online because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of kickback from this, a lot of backlash. But I've been working on my visibility. I've been working on my confidence. So, bring it on. But I really, really would like to, for those of you who are looking for someone with integrity, take your time, follow them, see if they actually do what they say they're going to do. Oftentimes, however, you don't know until you're actually in the program or you're in the container. And if the coach or the healer, I'm putting them in the same category, they're not, but just to make things easier. If they are overpromising, if they are not fundamentally saying to you, yes, it is partly, it's up to you, and together we co-create this. If they are overgiving, if they are under giving, if they don't communicate with you, unless these are things that have actually been agreed to in advance, then I think there's a issue of integrity there. I've had, and this is something which I coach my clients on, be very, very clear in what you're going to deliver. Be very clear in the results that you promise. If you are working with trauma, if you are working with concrete things, you cannot promise that it will disappear. You just can't. You can believe it as a healer. You can believe it with every fiber of your being, but you cannot promise it for the client, because there's so many other aspects that are involved. So this is something that's very, very dear to me. And I remember when I actually started to rise in the corporate ladder, as it were, I was known as the person who would come in and fix stuff. So if things fell apart, if whether it was relationships, communications with, because I worked with an outside company, consulted in to very large corporations for a while. And I was known as the fixer, but in a very, very soft way. But what I would do when I went in there is I would get the lay of the land and say, right, what have you actually decide? What are you going to be delivering? What have you told people that you're going to be delivering? What are you going to do? And what are you going to, where is the situation right now? Whether it be a communication with a department, whether it be a communication with, to do with a service, to do with training, where are you? What have you promised? And where are you not fulfilling on that promise? Because the only way to get people on board is for them to trust you. And you don't want the trust to be through manipulative means. People know. People know. People can sense that energy. They can sense when you are saying something and you don't mean it wholeheartedly. How many times have you, if you've been in corporate, where the management comes along and says, we're going to do this, it's so blah, blah, it's amazing, and we promise you this, that, and the other, and you know that they are just doing what they've been told to do. They don't believe it. They don't trust it. How can you trust them? And then how many employees then go, well, yeah, it's all just talk. And yet many of you might have also on the other side of it had a team leader. And it's often the team leaders I find that do this. The team leader saying, okay, this is what they say they're going to be putting in place. That might not actually happen, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you have it, whatever you need so that you can fulfill your job in the best way that I can help you with. Do you trust that? So this is how I work with clients. And especially in a corporate arena, which I have worked where lining things up is actually working with them to, at a high level, to say, what are you promising? Can you deliver on that promise? And if not, don't say it. Don't say it. Because essentially these people are employees. They are doing a job for you. You don't have to promise a lot. So over-promising does you no favors. Over-promising in the coaching and healing industry will leave you flat on your feet. Will leave you flat on your butt, rather, I should say. Because eventually the word will get out. Eventually the word will get out that you do not follow up. That what you say is rubbish. That your programs are not set up to deliver what they say they should. Eventually the word will get round. And this is often, I find, if you are the kind of person who is a bit worried to be more visible, maybe consider that your word, that you're breaking your word to yourself often enough that you don't feel comfortable to actually committing to your word to anybody else. Maybe a hard truth for you. But look at it. How many times do you promise yourself that you will do something and then you renege on it? How often do you promise yourself that you will do the work and you don't? How many times do you make promises to other people about you and renege? That's even worse. I don't want to make you feel bad. Look, you know, everybody's got their own perspective of what integrity and their word means. Everybody's got their own perspective of what it means to market themselves, what it means to sell themselves. So I want to go back to this story where in corporate, I was saying to you, you know, a lot of times things wouldn't happen and things were overpromised. The last 2 times I was in a boardroom where a big system was being rolled in. It was SAP at the time, the first one, as I remember. And then another one was putting in a framework that for the whole tech department. And we're talking large corporations. We're talking Fortune 500 global corporations. So we're not talking about very small businesses here. So I was in there to advise on what training across the board, what learning would be required in order to make this change. It was the time before change managers were involved. Project managers were not so, you know, not so popular. It wasn't the done thing. Now it's very, very, very a la mode. So I was in that capacity. And I remember asking the board at this point, because I'd been burned so many times being the front person. I said to them, this is the recommendation. I'd say, oh, no, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to do just a bit of this and a bit of that and the others. And I said to them, what is your actual objective here? Is it to say that you've rolled this out across the department, across the place, the whole company? Or is it to actually roll it out and have it work? Because they're 2 very different propositions, really, really different propositions. So, you know, which one is it? And to actually ensure that your employees can do this requires a lot more depth, a lot more time, and a lot more of changing culture and beliefs across the board, as well as training, just, you know, hands down training, making sure people can actually do the work on the machine that they're given. You know, some of these systems are extremely complex, like really complex. And if it's not very clear and very process orientated in those respects, it's very difficult to get consistency going through. Just lost my word there. And often these boards could not answer that question, because answering that question would call what they felt their integrity was into question. Where actually, by being very, very truthful, whichever way that lies, is much more in integrity than manipulating and lying about it. So let's bring this back to coaching, healing, group programs, one-to-one healing. Promising the earth and the moon is a marketing ploy. Yes, it will get you lots of attention. But just think of the damage that maybe you're doing to your own self-belief and how much more work you'll have to do after that to, I don't know, like yourself, to be comfortable with yourself, to be authentic. So when you are putting out these marketing messages, and this is why I don't do a lot of marketing, because I only put out what is absolutely feels hand on heart true for me. When you're putting these messages out, just think about, is this in full integrity with every part of me? Do I go into this relationship, whether it be with many or with one, with them being very clear, with me being very clear. That's when you have real co-creation. That's when the real magic happens. When both sides know exactly what's going to happen, you can show them the possibilities. I'm not saying like, I'm not talking about being pessimistic, and show them the possibilities, but equally make it very clear to them what's going to happen in this process. Now, I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts around this, because this is something that's very, very true to my heart, very, very close to my heart, I should say. Something that I've been disappointed about in the past. And also something that I'm working through at the moment as my brand changes, grows, scales, and I'm starting to think of larger group programs and putting together words to describe those. I want to make sure that my message, the message that comes across, is very, very true. That it highlights the depth that is available within whichever container that is, which highlights the outcomes that are possible, and equally highlights the commitment required from the client. Now, I am 100% on board with having fewer clients in my world. 100% on board with that. I'm not going for masses. I'm a projector. I'm a 1-3. My masses is this. This is my masses through my talks, through my interviews, through my books, through my articles, my content. This is my version of masses. And if I can touch or guide even one CEO of a large corporation to take this to heart, then my impact could be hundreds of thousands, just through delivering a little bit of energy and a little bit of I hope, wisdom. Again, all through my view. And I want to caveat all of this with the fact that, yes, a lot of my work is healing. I work through source energy. I work through creator energy. But I have no illusions that all that channeling, all that information, all those insights, all the intuition is flowing through me. And if I can't be completely clear, if I can't be open and fully in integrity, then whatever I am channeling, whatever I am bringing forth is stained, is tainted. And that's why I do so much inner work. That's why I myself have my own person who I go to, completely outside of this industry, actually. And I did that on purpose. I made sure that I wasn't being coached by another coach whose business is coaching people to coach. Makes no sense to me. I work with other healers because, again, their channel needs to be clear for them not to be tainted or stained. I am constantly in that study mode. I'm constantly going towards how can I improve myself? I know I need to do that because having so many defined centers in my human design chart, and especially having a defined will center, that's the heart bit, the little triangle in the corner, having so many of those centers defined, it's easy for me to think I don't need improvement. Oh my goodness, for sure, there's always improvement, there's always growth. And I mean, I thank my background as as a dancer, as in fitness, for that mindset of always going for growth, but equally being okay with where you are. And that's where I have pivoted when I do a lot of my healing work and coaching work, is allowing people to be okay with where they are while still maintaining that growth space. When I go into businesses, corporations, I do a lot of team dynamics now. We talk about integrity. We talk about what your word means. We talk about using your natural talents, what those natural talents are, so that you're placed in a job role, in a position, in a team role that enhances and makes the most of that. That's part of being in integrity. Just like if I went in and I did a cold calling sales type job for a product that I didn't believe in, I don't think I would actually manage more than 2 calls before I gave that up, because not because I'm a quitter, but because it's just not in integrity for me. So, as I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think. And opening up the floor to that, I asked a question earlier. When I say ethical from a healing or coaching perspective, what does that mean to you? And I thought I'd come on and share a little bit of what that means to me. So as I said, if you found some value in this, please do share this. And please do say hi. Love to hear from you. Thank you very much. And I will speak to you soon. Bye, everybody. Bye.